Yeah.
So thank you all for being here. First of all, it's great that we were able to make this happen despite the time differences and the crazy situation that we're all overcoming. So I've briefly read your campaign, the poster that you guys have put out, and just generally, first of all, starting, I know that you have like quite a mix of the class that you're in. So you're a rising senior, Taylah, and you're a rising sophomore, Wenxin. Is that right? What do you think that brings to this? I mean, just as a general question, what do you think this is going to bring to the campaign and like your position as president and vice president if you are able to gain it?
Yeah. So, Wenxing, did you want to start, or did you want me to start? Completely up to you.
You can start first.
You sure? Yeah. I honestly think it's amazing to have two people work together that aren't from the same class. Pros and cons, obviously, but I think it brings a whole different perspective, especially given the fact that juniors like myself at the moment are not at the Shanghai campus typically for that junior year. I think it's nice to have a freshman, especially like Wenjin, who is able to sort of tell me what's happening back on campus because she's actually part of that group. So she understands what's happening with the sophomores and freshmen. And then I'm able to kind of bring the perspectives from the junior class and then obviously from the seniors as well. So I think it's very complimentary that we actually cover the entire student body with that. Wenxin, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Like during the campaign, like Taylah was having those ideas that she was experienced so much with the student government that she has previously had a director of global affairs, those experience, and she knows what we could do within the student government and what we couldn't do within the student government.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those perspectives are so valuable for me, and I think I'm able to bring in those what freshmen are up to. Like I'm able to observe that they may be up doing some group studying whenever midterm or finals are coming. So I could bring that idea into our manifesto, and I think those like supplementary perspectives are so valuable, like Taylah said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's the cool part about this pair is that we don't have that many pairs that are like from different classes. I think we've had two pairs that are both rising sophomores, so they're very new to this. But it's really nice to have like a sort of balance of like an experienced student and one that maybe is quite new to our school. Can you briefly describe what sort of problems you see happening in student government this semester or from previous semesters, Taylah, I guess, because you're a junior? I'm a senior, so I've seen quite a bit by now, but I've not been as active in the student government. What do you think are some challenges that you will have to come across next semester, and what initiatives do you think could tackle those?
Okay. Yeah. So that's a great question. Look, I think with the whole COVID situation, it's definitely changed the way in which we've had to think about student government and the way in which we engage with students. Mm-hmm. It's so different transitioning from a semester that is online to coming back to face-to-face contact. And that's obviously going to bring with it its own challenges. People are used to working on their own time. They're used to having a lot more free time as well. I can't really speak that much for the issues that the student government are facing at the moment, because my capacity at the moment was more in NYU Shanghai Senator and Site Ambassador. But we've seen in the past that issues have been a lack of commitment and a lack of engagement. So it sort of starts off really positive at the beginning when everyone gets elected, and then it kind of dies off towards the end. You just see that lack of motivation kind of come in. And that's a natural part of life. That's not to say that that doesn't happen, because it happens to all of us. It happens to me. No one's perfect. But I think especially given the severity of the COVID situation and how detrimental that has had an impact on every single one of us, the way in which to truly engage people is going to have to be really reinforcing that we are NYU Shanghai together. and that we really do need to bring back this engagement. So whether or not that's enacting a lot more community events, having those student mixes. I'm working as an orientation ambassador this upcoming semester as well. So really engaging with that freshman cohort to kind of show them what we have and sort of revolutionize that to make sure that everyone's on board, everyone's committed, and we're all working to that one common goal.
Wenxin, do you have anything to add?
Oh, wow, so impressive. Yeah, I think a lot of lack of commitment and then like the to do things after elections are what I have observed like last semester. But I think during the COVID situation, we are facing many more opportunities and also difficulties at the same time. So I think online events will be able to prospering in some certain aspects, given the fact that if we are committed to creating those opportunities for people to have like info session is a great like prelude for all of the online events we are probably gonna able to host in the future. And also for difficulties, I presume that that's unable to being include body language and face-to-face communication, and to see those like international students as well as Chinese students together, like talking English. People are restricting in their small area, and I think we could definitely host more events to bring people together, like Taylah said.
Yeah, that was so well put.
I love this mutual encouragement. It's very nice.
No, honestly, Wenxin is fantastic. I'm blessed here. I'm so lucky.
No, you guys are both great. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and that you guys we're all coming back to campus. I mean, I am, because I'm taking a gap semester, but I know that a lot of students are coming back next semester, and they're probably going to look for reuniting with friendships and getting back to face-to-face contact and all those things. So that's definitely something that you guys are going to have to be mindful of. What about specifically student government wise? Like, do you think that there's been challenges within the government that you want to overcome next semester, or like do better than they have in the past? What are some initiatives that you're focusing on for that?
Hopefully greater collaboration within different committees. I remember when I was director and assistant director of global affairs, it was often every committee was working sort of independently instead of trying to be cohesive, especially when there's a lot of events that we can sort of overlap. You have amazingly talented people in student government that are all there to represent the students. And I think if we can pool all of our resources together and, you know, have external affairs work with global, everyone work with the events committee to put on more events, it takes the strain off those sorts of committees, and we're kind of all able to sort of have a better outcome because you've got more hands on deck that are actually able to sort of promote that. So in terms of a concrete plan, definitely your big events like Dumpling Fest and Spring Formal that they've held in the past, if you have more events like that that have greater volunteering and presence from student government members, I think that in turn is also going to encourage a lot more of the student body to kind of attend. Because if your student government's there and they're proud of their school and they're really there for you, then that will kind of give off that image that we all need to be there for each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Could you repeat the question again?
Oh, I was just saying, like,
yeah.
in terms of student government specifically, because you guys spoke about COVID-19 and how that's going to have an effect on the student body, but specifically for the student government, there's probably been challenges previously, things that they've not been able to do as well that you would probably want to focus on. What are those, and how would you implement that change?
Oh, like, I see. So the things that student government hasn't done so well in the past, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that, because I've observed that, for example, some clubs are hosting Green Shanghai, are hosting trash fashion show and other environmentally friendly activities. The student government sometimes overlap with the clubs, and also they probably overlapping with each other within the director, within the the departments within student government. And in terms of the things that they did well and what we could possibly change in the future, I would definitely say that communication is more important than we think. And then we are devoted to boost this internal communication within the government, and then external communication with the student body together. And I think the mailbox is something we can promote. Like the students will be able to trust the student government and send their requests and things that they find unreasonable and things they find confusing, troubling to student government. And then we are able to be the representatives of them, and sometimes like communicate to the school leadership with those issues, but reasonably, and reasonable issues, of course. So once the problems are tackled, once a time or sometimes another time, I think the student will be able to find the usefulness of this mailbox. And I think that's really a progress for us, for the student government, for the external communication. And I think Taylah just mentioned the internal communication, which is so fantastic. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I think, yeah, communication is definitely the key. I've heard that before too, that there's a lot of like distinctiveness in the student government body where people are just like working quite separately, but I guess like coming together would be very useful for especially the government that we're going to see next semester, with so many students wanting to return to campus. Also, I wanted to ask specifically about certain initiatives that Julie, would you like to ask any questions right now? Or
of course, I have questions about the next semester, because due to the current situations, many Chinese students canceled their plan to study away, while many foreign and international students could not turn to Shanghai for their semesters. So how would you plan to respond to these situations next semester, maybe?
Yeah, I can take that one. I have actually already started working with a few people that have reached out to me about that issue. I did extensive work in New York with the Office of Global Programs, who are the ones that actually dictate the study away. And in terms of making that a little bit more flexible, we're working with OGS in order to try and resolve some of those problems. I think it really does come down to the fact that this was such an unprecedented, and I know that's cliche, but there really are uncharted waters. No one's ever been experienced or kind of exposed to this sort of an environment before. And obviously, being an international student myself, we've currently got a travel ban that I can't even leave my country. I can't even get back into China at the moment. So I can see how this causes a lot of stress for people. And what we will do is obviously take those concerns right up to the highest level. That's something that Wenxin and I pride ourselves on, is not being afraid to go and speak to who we need to speak to, and we won't stop until we do get a response. So at the moment, I would be targeting that towards the Office of Global Programs in New York, given that they are the body that deals with that. And I'm obviously happy to take as many calls and emails as needed in order to pass that information on. I myself can't specifically overcome or resolve those sorts of situations directly, but I'm the person that you come to, and I can be that intermediary in order to get you the results that you need.
Yeah, that is amazing. For the situation that the internationals are students are like sort of trapped in their own countries, not able to come to China, I find that really troubling for me, and also for them, definitely. So I think to create a sort of atmosphere that is going to bring the whole community together is the priority of the student government next semester and also this semester as well. So this ambience of the student body uniting together could be created online, though it will be the effect will be experimental. We're going to tackle this as best as we can. So I noticed campaigns that are currently there are campaigns of a creative writing project where students are going to type their own stories in their own countries to a whole doc of the NYU Shanghai document. I think this is a really amazing project to unite students together in different perspectives. This one is in creative writing, and I think also I noticed some documents to credit to the staff and those people who are contributed to NYU Shanghai staff the document. So I find those campaigns are really amazing, and then we're able to take advantage of the online situation, not just to meet, to Zoom, to Skype, but also to take advantage of the writing that we could do online, created sort of a writing community that is going to bring together the power and the truths that we are pursuing in this time. Yeah.
Ah, cool. Thank you, Julie. Thank you guys for answering that. There's also other aspects that maybe I wanted to ask if you guys feel that there's any drawbacks to the fact that maybe specifically Wenxin, like since you're a freshman, do you feel that there's any like drawback for you being so new to this school and having to apply for this position or like applying for it so willingly? What are some of the challenges that you think you'd come across, or like how do you think, what gives you the confidence that even as a rising sophomore that's been quite new to the school, you're able to take on the position?
No, I see. Yeah. I think it is because of this valor that and this new to the school that I am so energetic and so committed and passionate about NYU Shanghai, this community, and also my own passion for this school. So that I'm willing to take on the position, and also to be able to enact and be able to commit after the election if I'm sort of elected. And also as a freshman and a rising sophomore, those are the years that are golden in our like college years, that we are devoted to the student initiatives, and also to take advantage of our youth to be able to create and being innovative. I think to be young is definitely a capital and definitely something that we should be proud of.
Great, thank you so much. And then Taylah, I was asking, I know you're much more experienced, given that you're a junior and that you've been at the school. Also, what other leadership or like other experiences have you had in the past that you think you could bring to this job as the president of the student government, or as the vice president, I guess. But either one, how do you think that you could use the experiences you've had at NYU Shanghai in certain leadership roles or communicative roles that could apply to this position?
Yeah, of course. So I started with my leadership experience with NYU Shanghai from my freshman year, and I actually started with running for class rep, but was unsuccessful. And I didn't let it deter me, because I thought, one negative setback is definitely not going to wipe away, as Wenxin said, the passion that you have and the enthusiasm that you've got for the community. So, I mean, honestly, I've been very, very lucky and privileged that the NYU Shanghai community has supported me and believed in me to be able to hold the positions that I've had. I mean, as Wenxin was saying, I've worked in NYU Shanghai student government with assistant director and director of global affairs, but then I've worked on the Global Student Network, which is our global student council with every site. And then I've worked in New York student government and on London site ambassador. So I've been exposed to a very diverse range of experiences that I think shape coming back to Shanghai quite nicely. Specifically, I used to get a lot of questions about us being very disconnected from other global campuses and NYU Shanghai not really having a reputation. There was a lot of instances about people complaining about the differences in financial aid between the different campuses. And I can honestly answer those questions with the experience that I've gained from going abroad and actually having looked directly at the New York City budget and having a look at what we actually have to play with and how that's allocated. So instead of just being able to give students an answer where we can say, yeah, of course, we'll look into it, we should be able to increase this, it's not. I bring a sense of realness back to the role. And that is, I will never promise you something that I know that I can't deliver, because I'm all about feasibility. And I think the experiences that I've given, apart from giving me the capability to be a strong leader and to be an advocate for you, it's given me that sense where I know exactly what we need to do and how we can achieve it. And I know what we can actually, the scope of what we can work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would like to add on it. I totally am for it. And that's what we've been discussing about. And I think we've all agreed on this, that we are with the proven experience, and Taylah has the knowledge of how student government work and how we are going to navigate this system to bring the best benefits for our student body. So I definitely think that is the advantage that Taylah has, and that's why she's amazing, that she's so enthusiastic about the student body and also have the exact knowledge of how to implement those policies and how to bring the students the results that they want, and to coordinate the relationship with the student body and the school. And also, I think for me, I would like to add on it that not only for the enthusiasm and passion, I'm also being so perceptive about what's going on in the freshman and sophomore situation. So I'm able to know what students are thinking about within our class, so and bring that perspective and perception into the policies that we are going to consider in the future.
And I think Wenxin also brings the experience from the student body too. So she may not have the experience within student government, but she's got so much experience getting involved in student life and holding some real top positions within some of our clubs and societies. So I think irrespective of the fact that if it gets to a certain time where they've used this service 3 times, then they're actually put into contact with someone who's able to further follow up with their well-being to make sure that everything's okay. But I think that is 2 things specifically that I noticed while studying abroad that I think would be a great implementation into NYU Shanghai would be definitely the renting of textbooks and having that option, sourcing more through the database and the NYU library that we have, and then offering a courtesy meal type thing in order for students who are experiencing food insecurity, because it is an issue that's within our community, but it's just not something that's talked so much about, given the fact that people can feel quite embarrassed with this situation, and that's the stigma that we're trying to avoid and remove.
Since Taylah has studied away in so many abroad campuses, and she must learn much and get much inspirations from their policies. So I just asked her what inspirations and she got and what she wants to bring to the new semester.
Okay, great.
And she gave us 2 perfect suggestions. Okay. Since Wenxin Tang also works closely with students groups last semester, so she learned many problems in students groups. So did you notice any and want to solve them in your next semester?
Yeah. So I think one thing I've learned is that within clubs, there are situations that some clubs are not so active, and some clubs are like there are some like comparative situations within the clubs and regarding their activities. And so I would like to say that we can implement some club policies that we are able to reactivate those clubs that are not so active, and also we may be able to introduce like off-campus activities that from my knowledge that it exists, just that not so many clubs implement them. I think those can be sort of attributed to the external affairs range and also collaboration with the SOC's department. So I think that would be a brilliant idea to collaborating with universities across Shanghai, and also to bring those events to collaborating with the clubs. I think that would be like a nice idea for me. That's what I've noticed. So for the initiatives in the student life, one thing also I've noticed is troubling me is that there are so many activities that are coming from so many sources, and so many like initiators that students are like, there are so many of them. Yeah, so I would like to say that we might be able to make some resources list and links for the students so that they will be able to navigate them smoothly and to locate precisely which one they will be like to attend and what kind of resources that they will be expected to get. And probably the like those PPTs or whatever resources the events have got will be able to provide it in this link if they're willing.
Great, thank you. I think the clubs part is definitely a big deal at NYU Shanghai, because I think people have tried to make clubs a thing, but it's been very difficult to get the right funding, the right organizational capabilities to be able to do so. People have not been able to like run through with clubs and things. So I would love to see something happen on that front for sure, to boost up maybe even non-sport clubs or things like that, because a lot of them are like intercollegiate teams or whatever, which are doing quite well. But I think NYU Shanghai, specifically the clubs, definitely need some pumping up. Julie, do you have any other questions? Because I had one last question, but I feel like you guys have kind of answered them within Julie's questions. I wanted to ask a little bit about what specific initiatives you are going to come up with next semester. I mean, I feel like I've seen your campaign. A lot of it is general, but is there anything like that you specifically want to focus on in addition to the COVID-19 return of students?
Yeah, you're right. So the reason for keeping our plan quite broad and flexible was because the last thing we wanted to do was to set a pre-agenda and be kind of going with that, given the uncertainty and rapidly changing situation we're facing. And in saying that, it wasn't because we didn't give it any thought, but it was more so that we really wanted the input of the students, and we kind of wouldn't know what indeed we need to action until we start to get that feedback early on. But in terms of some of the things that I spoke about to Julie is definitely that textbook policy, because that really does relieve the financial burden, and that is to introduce that renting option, and also sourcing more textbooks through the online database, which is also going to help with our environmental impact, given the fact that Shanghai is so environmentally conscious at the moment, especially. And then the second one is definitely looking at food insecurity within NYU Shanghai. It's something that hasn't been spoken about specifically that much, but it's definitely there, and it's something that we're going to look at, is introducing that courtesy meals type implementation as well. In addition to that, we would like to have greater involvement with those sporting teams and having more of that portal campus sort of game sort of thing, so more interaction between them in that regard, and then hoping to have greater access to other professors from other sites in order to sort of give us greater understandings, or have sort of more of those talks that maybe students that from Shanghai are really interested in hearing from a speaker from New York, but it's an event that we can't attend because we're not physically there. So having more of those online links and capabilities would be great. We've seen that the entire world's been able to adjust to Zoom and online technologies. So I don't really see how this would actually be a challenge in implementing and really making use of the technology that we've got. So that's just 4 main ones for you. There'll obviously be a lot more. Wenxin, feel free to add on to those. They're the 4 that we've got at the moment. They'll obviously change and develop and become more specified as we go on, just to meet the needs of the student body, but that's what we're looking at the moment.
Great, thank you, Taylah.
Anytime.
Wenxin, would you like to say something? Yeah.
That was definitely the priorities that we're going to changing and facing. So for me, I'm like thinking of some challenging ideas, like not so challenging ideas for since I mentioned like the student. I think for me the priorities would be the collecting the resources that's so many events, that resources list that we are going to pursue. I think that is one thing that is really time consuming, but really worth the time, and also beneficial to all students in YU Shanghai. So this is one thing. And another thing that I'm thinking of is I noticed there are many students who are organizing their study groups privately to try to post their information on their social media platform, like their moments and in the their class groups. So I'm thinking of creating a website, maybe a student government or just an independent website for students to post those messages and to engage with each other for study groups and even for coffee, like whenever they feel like. And maybe, for example, they can post a thing that they wanted to talk about, possibly their future plans on graduate schools. Then we might have those experienced people who can like reply the post and then say, oh, I'm like, let's schedule time or something like that. That's a very long-term thing, but I think the most easy to tackle problem is the finals and midterm study groups. Those are really practical.
Yeah, and I think to add on to what Wenxin just said, both of us obviously are committed to doing every single one of those policies, but the good thing about having a present a vice is that you're able to split up those responsibilities. So there's obviously things that Wenxin is a lot stronger in than I am, and we both bring different skill sets. So it's kind of making sure that each one of us is doing, working obviously together, but really pushing for the stuff that we know that we can also do well ourselves too.
Great. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. This was really great. It was really nice hearing that you guys care so much about this community, and also that you're looking to implement change, given that fall is something that's also going to be, as Taylah brought up, unprecedented, because it's going to be a very different semester for all of us, I think. Seniors are going to be returning. There's going to be people that have canceled study aways that are going to be returning. So we'll see how that goes, but thank you so much for your time and your efforts in making things possible so far, and I wish you the best of luck for everything. I hope you guys get a lot of votes, and yeah, take care.